Thank you very much, Professor Bayat, for giving us a few moments of your time. Could you speak about Iran's revolution, the ideas and ideals that they were behind it?
You're talking about the 1979 revolution,
Yes,
or
yes.
you're talking about the recent
The
uprising?
1979.
Yes. Well, the Iranian revolution have been, by and large, is one of the, of course, the first, and I have argued that perhaps the last Islamic revolution of our time. Of course, the Islamization of the revolution basically was unfolded after the downfall of the regime. However, if we talk about the Iranian revolution as a process, when it began and it was unfolded, largely it was anti-imperialist and anti-monarchy and democratic revolution. However, the outcome of the revolution changed after the new revolutionaries took over the state power.
And could you talk about the recent activities that's just going on between the religious leader Khamenei and the President Ahmadinejad?
Well, it seems that, of course, there is a big disagreement between them, despite the fact that Ahmadinejad had been supported wholeheartedly by the supreme leader against the candidate of the Green Movement. Nevertheless, we see the development of quite considerable rift between the two leaders, at the same time between the supporters of these two leaders. Certainly it has significant implication for the perhaps stability of the regime itself, but we have to be very mindful of the fact that rift at the elite, at the top level, has almost always existed since the revolution, and they have managed to somewhat resolve when they have encountered opposition from below. We don't know what will really be the outcome of this rift and differences. We have to see what happens.
Do you think this is a sign of Iranian governments going post-Islamic government?
Yes. Well, I think the notion of post-Islamism as a vision largely, I think, emerged in the mid-1990s when it was somewhat manifested itself in the so-called new reform movement. And it was also reflected itself in certain policies of the reform government under President Mohammad Khatami. If it had remained and had succeeded in power by trying to transform and change the more theocratic manifestation, kind of characteristic of the regime, and if it had empowered the social movements from below for a democratic change, then we would have say that the government has moved towards post-Islamism. Right now, while you have at the societal level an important movement which in my view is post-Islamist, but at the level of the government by no means yet, and that the future depends upon this, of course, the conflict, or rather confrontation between this movement from below and the regime at the top.
Now, I want to change a little bit to what's going on in the Arab world, all this revolution. Can you talk about that in general?
Yeah. Well, it is a monumental change, in my view. A change that until, say, 4 or 5 months ago, probably nobody would predict that will happen. But especially scholarship, actually, on the Middle East has really failed to see the possibility of such a very significant transformation in the Arab world. The major vision of the both scholarship and especially the media has been that Middle Eastern societies, especially Arab world, have been one in which been characterized by largely stagnation. It doesn't move very much, and it has to do with a particular stagnant culture. It has to do with Islam and so on. I think this wave of revolutions and revolts which are unfolding today has, I think, in some way debunked that premise. And we need to look at the region with new lens and with new vocabulary, really. And I think a lot of people right now are working. I'm quite really optimistic about the future. There's a lot of work to do. Some regimes have fallen, and so the revolution is still going on in those countries, like Tunisia, like Egypt. In others, they are going on. In some countries, like in Yemen or Bahrain, there is resistance on the part of the ruling elites. But nevertheless, it seems that the direction is towards more and more openness and democracy in the region, which would have a significant really impact on the future of world politics.